It began with the travel. Lena's job in pharmaceutical sales had her on the road every couple of weeks, medical conventions, regional training events, team retreats. Nothing new. I'd always supported her, even when it meant she'd miss Jake's baseball games or Ava's school recitals. But then came the little shifts. She started wearing perfume again, the one she used back in college. Her workouts got longer. Her phone habits changed. Always face down. Locked. Notifications silenced. And the worst part? She laughed more, just not with me. It wasn't loud. It was subtle. But I noticed. And once you start noticing, you can't stop. I told myself not to be paranoid. That was the word I kept using. Paranoid. What kind of guy suspects his own wife just because she started using a new conditioner and changed her password? But the gut doesn't lie. And mine? Mine had been screaming for months. Still, I didn't confront her. Not yet. I told myself I'd wait for something concrete. That moment came on a Thursday. It was rainy. One of those gray days where time feels like it's moving in slow motion. I was working from home, logged into some endless spreadsheet when Lena texted. Flying out early tomorrow. Chicago trip got moved up. Chicago. Right. Another training weekend. She'd be gone 3 days. Except. I checked the calendar on the fridge later that night. It said St. Louis, not Chicago. That was the crack. The one I couldn't unsee. So I made a decision. The next morning, after she kissed the kids goodbye and wheeled her suitcase to the Uber, I called in sick. Packed a bag, got in my car and started driving. Not to the office. Not to the gym. To St. Louis. To the conference center hotel she was supposedly staying at. 3 hours into the drive, I still didn't know what I was going to do. Catch her? Surprise her? Ask her to dinner? Yell? Cry? I didn't even know if I wanted to know the truth. But truth doesn't wait for permission. When I arrived, I didn't go straight to the front desk. I sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, staring at the hotel entrance, watching people come and go. Salesmen. Conference attendees. One guy walked out in scrubs. And then I saw her. Lena. Stepping out of the lobby with her phone in hand. She was laughing. She wasn't alone. He was taller than me. Broad shoulders. Probably 10 years younger. Wearing a name badge and a confidence I hadn't felt in years. They walked together toward a coffee stand across the street. She touched his arm casually, like it meant nothing. But it meant something. It always means something. I didn't get out of the car. I just sat there and watched. Eventually, she disappeared back into the hotel. He followed a minute later. I sat for another half hour. Then I drove home. I didn't confront her that night when she called from Chicago. I didn't say a word when she told Ava she missed her and promised to bring back that purple stuffed sloth she saw at the airport. I played my part, smiled, said goodnight, folded the laundry. But inside, something had broken. Not loudly, not violently, quietly, like a small fracture in glass, waiting to spiderweb. And I knew this was only the beginning. The morning she came back, Lena acted like everything was fine. She breezed through the front door with airport coffee in hand and a smile like she'd just conquered the world. The same pink rolling suitcase, the same black coat she always wore on trips, like nothing had happened. Flight was early, she said, dropping her keys in the bowl by the door. Kids still asleep? I nodded. Said nothing. She handed me a bag of candy from the airport gift shop. Some sour gummies for Jake. Ava's purple sloth plushie. For me, a Chicago fridge magnet. Chicago. Right. That word sat on the counter like a grenade no one wanted to touch. I played along. Just like before. Let her talk about the conference, the keynote speaker, the breakout sessions, the boring hotel coffee. All fiction. A performance. I watched her closely, noting how easy it came to her. No flinch. No stutter. Just the right amount of eye contact. She had gotten good at this. And maybe that was the part that hurt most. Over the next few days, I kept my distance. Went through the motions. Breakfasts, soccer practice, bedtime stories. I smiled when I needed to. Laughed when appropriate. But inside, I was already building my exit. Or maybe, my revenge. I wasn't sure yet. All I knew was that something had shifted permanently. The next turning point came a week later. Lena had gone to the gym, or at least, that's what she said. She left in yoga pants and a ponytail, earbuds in, water bottle in hand. But her gym bag, the black one she always took with her, was still sitting by the hallway bench. Old habit kicked in. I was looking for nothing specific, just a spark. Something to confirm what I already knew but couldn't prove. And then I found it. Not a text. Not a photo. A small cardboard box tucked in a side pocket of her gym bag. 6 condoms. Sealed. New. I stood there for a long moment just holding the box in my hand. It was almost laughable. Lena and I hadn't used condoms since our first year of marriage. After our second child, she stopped taking birth control because of the side effects. I'd gotten a vasectomy 5 years ago, partly for peace of mind, partly for her comfort. So condoms? They had no place in our story. Unless there was another story. And there was. The kind with hotel rooms and coffee shop laughs and name badges that didn't belong to me. I didn't feel anger, not immediately. No rage. No broken dishes or punched walls. Just that same quiet clarity I'd felt in the hotel parking lot. I put the box back exactly where I'd found it. Closed the zipper. Walked away. The next day, I left work early and went to a Walgreens across town, one where no one knew me. I bought an identical box of condoms. And then, in the garage, with the soft hum of the dryer in the background, I sat down with a safety pin and carefully poked tiny holes in the center of each one. Not deep enough to be obvious. Just enough. Petty? Maybe. But part of me wanted something poetic. If she was going to risk everything, let the consequences be real. I swapped the boxes, resealed everything, and placed it neatly back in her gym bag. That night, over dinner, she told me she had another work trip coming up. Nashville. Just 2 days. She asked if I could handle the school pickups. Of course, I said, and smiled. After she went upstairs, I opened my laptop and messaged a guy I hadn't spoken to in years, Tyler, a college friend turned divorce lawyer. We used to call him the exit man. 15 minutes later, he replied, "You okay?" I stared at the screen for a long time before answering. Not yet. But I will be. I wasn't ready to file. Not quite. First, I needed to see it. To hear the truth from her own mouth. Not just the shadow of it. But I wasn't going to wait forever. One more trip. One more chance. Then it was done. The Liberty Group held their spring picnic on a Saturday. Lena insisted we go. For the kids, she said. They've been looking forward to the pony rides. Pony rides. Corporate bounce houses. Face paint. All the things that are supposed to distract you from what's really going on. I went. Not because I wanted to, but because sometimes you get more answers from pretending to believe the lie than confronting it outright. Besides, I had a hunch I couldn't shake. I had a name now. Brandon. I'd seen it on a keycard she accidentally left out. Just a first name, no title, but I'd pieced things together. Regional sales, 2 years younger, always flying somewhere. And according to Lena's phone, which I'd finally cracked with an old birthday, B. Blueheart had been texting her things I hadn't heard in years. So yeah, I wanted to meet B. Or more accurately, see him. Watch them interact. Quietly, without her knowing. It didn't take long. They weren't holding hands. Nothing obvious. But the air between them had a pulse. You could feel it. The way she tilted her head when she laughed at something he said. The way he touched the small of her back when no one else was looking, or when he thought no one else was. But I was. I watched, and I cataloged. And then fate stepped in. I was standing by the drinks table when a woman next to me nudged her sunglasses down and said, "You're Lena's husband, right?" I turned. She was stunning, red hair, green eyes, the kind of composure that doesn't come from makeup or good lighting, but from having survived a storm and learning how to smile through it. "I'm Rachel," she said, extending her hand. "Brandon's wife." There it was. I blinked. She gave a wry smile. "Yeah, that Brandon." I shook her hand, and for a second we just stood there, two strangers who weren't strangers at all, not really. We sat down at a picnic table under a tree, away from the crowd. The kids were off getting balloon animals. Lena and Brandon were God knows where. Rachel exhaled slowly. "I wasn't sure if I should say anything," she said. "But you have the look." "What look?" "The one people wear when they know too much and still have to smile like everything's fine." I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. "I've known for about a month," she said. "I found messages. Same story, different city." I nodded. "Mine started a little earlier. I followed her to a hotel once. Didn't confront her. Just watched." Rachel was quiet for a moment, then asked, "Did it help?" "No," I said. "But it made things real." We talked for an hour. Compared notes. Confirmed timelines. Even laughed, bitterly, dryly, at how textbook the whole thing was. Two people playing house with two other people, thinking no one noticed. She told me she'd already hired a private investigator. Had photos. Call logs. Even a few hotel check-ins with matching dates. Not that I need them, she said. But I wanted options. Then she paused. I know this sounds crazy, but maybe we should team up. I blinked. You mean, like, legally? I mean everything, she said. We compare what we know, we track patterns. And if it comes to it, we hit them at the same time. I chuckled, though there wasn't much humor in it. This sounds like a movie, I said. She shrugged. Then maybe it's time we wrote the ending ourselves. We exchanged numbers. As we stood to leave, she looked at me and said, you know the part that hurts the most? What? They could have just left. But they stayed and lied, like we didn't deserve the truth. I nodded. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Rachel's words. How calm she'd been. How composed. And yet, underneath, I could see the fracture lines. Same as mine. I checked Lena's gym bag again. The condoms were still there. And that's when the idea hit me, not out of anger, but out of something colder. If they wanted to play house, let them live with the consequences. Because Rachel and I, we weren't just watching anymore. We were planning. It was a Tuesday. The kind of day where everything feels average. Cereal bowls in the sink, half-warm coffee, emails you don't really read. A day like any other. Until it wasn't. Lena came home early from work. No text. No heads up. Just walked in around 3 p.m., looking jittery. Not panicked, not upset, just weirdly nervous. Smiling too much. Fidgeting with her ring, even though she hasn't worn it regularly in months. I was in the garage sorting out old boxes. She stood in the doorway like a kid rehearsing lines for a school play. Hey, she said, voice soft. Can we talk? That phrase. Can we talk? Those 3 words are never followed by anything good. I wiped my hands on a rag and nodded. She didn't sit. Just stood there. I wasn't sure how to say this. But I think I'm pregnant. Silence. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. The smirk. The reveal that this was some kind of weird joke. It didn't come. Instead, she pulled a plastic strip out of her purse, the kind you buy in a box of 2 from CVS, and held it up like she was presenting evidence. 2 pink lines. Bold. Clear. Undeniable. I took it this morning, she said, watching my reaction like it was a math problem she couldn't quite solve. I didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't breathe. She must have mistaken my silence for shock or maybe for joy. It wasn't planned, she added quickly. But I don't know. Maybe this is the universe giving us a second chance. The word, us, hit harder than the test result. I nodded slowly, thoughtfully, like I was still processing. But the truth was instant. Clean. Sharp. I've had a vasectomy. 5 years ago. She knew that. And unless biology had suddenly rewritten itself, this pregnancy had nothing to do with me. So I smiled. Just enough to keep her calm. Wow, I said, with practiced calm. That's unexpected. She stepped forward, trying to read my face. I wasn't sure how you'd take it. I know things have been distant lately. But maybe this is what we needed, you know? I nodded again. Yeah, I said. Maybe. But in my mind, I was already calling Rachel. That night, I didn't sleep. I laid next to Lena, watching her breathe, wondering how she could lie so effortlessly. Wondering if she convinced herself it was mine, or if she was just hoping I wouldn't do the math. The next morning, I messaged Rachel. We have a new problem. She's pregnant. She called within 2 minutes. No way, she said. You. No, I replied. I had a vasectomy. Dead silence on the other end. Then, oh my God. Brandon told me he had one too. That stopped me cold. You sure? He mentioned it when we were planning our second kid. He said he had it done after his first divorce. Didn't want more surprises. My stomach turned. So if Lena's pregnant, I began. And Brandon's sterile, she finished. Then who's the father? The silence said everything. This wasn't just infidelity now. This wasn't just emotional betrayal. This was a wild card. And I needed to know the truth, not just for me, but for the child. Whoever they were going to be. That day, I scheduled a consultation with a private lab. Paternity testing. Discreet. Fast. All I needed was a swab. And patience. Rachel said she could handle Brandon. She had her ways. Give me 2 weeks, she said. I'll get the sample. One way or another. We were detectives now. Spouses turned spies. Sharing evidence like wartime allies. But here's the thing about looking for the truth. Sometimes you find it. Sometimes it finds you. And the test result? It was coming. The envelope came on a Thursday. Plain white. No return address. Just my name, typed in a quiet font, like the truth shouldn't draw too much attention. I knew what it was the second I saw it. I didn't open it right away. I let it sit on the kitchen counter while I made coffee, fed the dog, answered a couple emails I didn't care about, like putting off a fire alarm because the silence was easier than the noise. But eventually, I sat down and opened it. 2 pages. Top line. Paternity exclusion, positive. The tested male is excluded as the biological father of the unborn child. It wasn't mine. No surprise there. But that wasn't the twist. What came next hit harder. The second document was from Rachel. She had managed to get Brandon's DNA from a toothbrush, she said, like it was no big deal. She ran the test in parallel. Brandon, 2, excluded. 2 men. 2 vasectomies. 0 fathers. And yet, Lena was very much pregnant. I sat there staring at the pages, feeling the air thicken around me. I thought I had the story. Cheating wife. Office affair. Emotional betrayal with a predictable pattern. But now, this wasn't a love triangle. It was a web, and we'd only been looking at 2 corners of it. I called Rachel. He's not the father, I said quietly. Silence. Brandon. Neither am I. And neither is he. More silence. Then she exhaled, slowly. Then who the hell is? That was the million-dollar question. She told me something else then, something I hadn't known. I checked his phone. Brandon's been seeing someone else. I blinked. Wait. Besides Lena? Yep. A woman named Bethany. She's 25. Yoga instructor. 0 interest in pharmaceuticals. So while our spouses were destroying our lives, I said slowly, they were also cheating on each other? Rachel gave a bitter laugh. Classy, right? It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was chaos. I hung up and went for a walk. I didn't bring my phone. Didn't bring anything. I just walked. I passed neighbors I couldn't look in the eye. Playgrounds that suddenly felt distant. Street corners we used to stop at for ice cream with the kids. And I kept thinking one thing over and over. How do you build your life around someone who doesn't even know who got her pregnant? When I got back, Lena was sitting at the kitchen table, rubbing her stomach in that absent-minded way expectant mothers do. She looked up at me and smiled, soft, sweet, like nothing was wrong. I sat across from her, and I didn't say anything. Not yet, because I realized something. She was still lying, still pretending, still believing that I, the man who took her to every prenatal appointment with our second child, wouldn't notice the cracks in her story. But here's the thing about cracks. Eventually, they reach the foundation. And when they do, the whole house falls. That night, while she slept, I opened her laptop. And what I found wasn't a name or a photo or some steamy email. It was a calendar invite. One she forgot to delete. D. Follow-up at Midtown Women's Clinic. Confirm paternity test result. Initial only. Just a letter. D. I stared at it for a long time. And then I smiled. Because now I had a new mission. Find D. Because whoever he was the one she never told me about. The one who mattered more than I did. Her real name was Claire. Not legally. I mean, yes, her ID still said Lena. But Claire was the version she used when she didn't want to be recognized. When she checked into hotels. When she signed up for conferences out of state. When she needed a second life, safely tucked away from the one she built with me. I found the alias on an invoice from Midtown Women's Clinic. The same place from the calendar reminder. A second identity used casually, like changing a screen name. Like it didn't mean anything. But it did. I followed the trail. D wasn't David. Not Derek. Not Daniel. His name was Dean, and he wasn't just anyone. He was her therapist. Let that sink in. She met him during one of those burnout phases, back when she said she needed time to recenter, whatever that meant. She started seeing him through her company's EAP program. Weekly sessions turned into bi-weekly, then turned into weekend wellness retreats. Turns out, the only thing being retreated was her dignity. He was 10 years older than her. Divorced. Ran his own practice out of a rented office above a yoga studio. The kind of guy who quotes Rumi and drinks imported teas, but somehow ends up sleeping with a married client. According to state board records, his license was still active, which meant their relationship had either been buried deep or was just recent enough to skate under the radar. Either way, Claire wasn't just cheating with him. She was orchestrating an entire double life. And the baby? He didn't even know. Not yet. And that's when it clicked for me. All those nights, she'd come home centered. All the new mantras. The sudden interest in soul alignment. She wasn't healing. She was rehearsing. rehearsing how to lie better. Because here's the thing, Claire didn't fall in love with someone else. She escaped into someone else. And that's worse. Falling for someone else, that's human. It happens. But building a full-scale, alternate version of yourself while playing happy wife and mother? That's something else entirely. That's a game. And Claire? She was good at it. I watched one of Dean's recorded wellness seminars online, just to see the guy, hear his voice. It was public. Nothing confidential. Just him in front of a group, talking about safe spaces and emotional architecture. It made me sick. Not because of what he was saying, but because I could see her in it. The way she mirrored his tone, his phrasing, his language. She'd become a version of him. And I was watching it happen in real time. She came home that night, humming to herself, her belly now just starting to show beneath her sweatshirt. She asked if I wanted tea. Peppermint. Organic. Helps with digestion, she said. I said no. I sat across from her at the kitchen island and stared at her. Really stared. And for the first time, I didn't feel anger. I felt something colder. Distance. I realized I wasn't grieving the person I lost. I was grieving the person who never existed. Claire wasn't Lena. She never had been. She just played her convincingly. And now? Now I had to decide what to do with the truth. It didn't happen all at once. I didn't throw her bags on the lawn. I didn't scream in her face. I didn't post some cryptic status online or tell the kids their mother was a fraud. No. I started with coffee. Black. No sugar. Then I called Tyler. Tyler's been a friend of mine since undergrad. These days he's a family law attorney in a sharp suit with a sharper mind, the kind of guy who never raises his voice, but always wins. I need to move forward, I told him. You sure? He asked. I didn't even blink. Dead sure. He didn't say, I told you so, though he could have. Instead, he started outlining next steps like we were drafting blueprints for a building. Brick by brick. Move by move. I sent him everything. The photos. The pregnancy test. The paternity results. The email history. Even a screenshot of the yoga seminar video with Dean's smug face mid-sentence. Tyler reviewed it all and said, this won't just be a divorce. It's a story. And judges care about stories. That's when I realized what this really was. A performance. Not just hers, ours. And I was finally stepping into my role. The next few weeks were surgical. I opened new accounts. Changed passwords. Set up an encrypted cloud drive for documentation. Installed home security. Quietly recorded conversations legal in our state, as long as one party knows. And I waited. Not because I was stalling, but because precision takes patience. Meanwhile, Claire kept humming around the house like a woman nesting before a new chapter. Painting a spare room soft green. Talking about Montessori books. Referring to us like we were still a unit. It was surreal. She had no idea I was building the case that would legally dismantle everything she thought she still owned. I started therapy myself, not with Dean, obviously. A real one. A woman named Meredith who didn't care about incense or mantras. She gave it to me straight. You're in control, she told me. But don't confuse control with revenge. I nodded. But truthfully, the line was already blurring. Rachel and I kept in touch, comparing notes like codebreakers. She'd filed already. Her court date was coming up. You ready to nuke this thing? She asked one night over the phone. Past ready, I said. She chuckled. Well, let's do it quietly. Quiet is the new loud, I told her. And I meant it. One morning, Claire asked if I could drive her to an appointment. Baby related, she said with a grin. I said sure. We sat in the car in silence, soft music playing. She kept scrolling through Pinterest on her phone, saving nursery inspiration and baby shower ideas. And I kept thinking how wild it was that someone could be so committed to the future, while still refusing to acknowledge the present. That night, I printed the first draft of the divorce petition. I left it on my desk. Unlocked. She'd find it eventually. She did. 3 days later, I came home from work and saw the paper exactly where I left it, but folded. She was in the living room, curled on the couch, staring into nothing. You read it? I asked. She nodded slowly. Then she said something I didn't expect. I thought I could keep both lives. She said it not like a confession, but like a regret. And I just nodded, because there was nothing left to say. The clock had started, and the next move was mine. It happened on a Sunday. I picked the day carefully. Kids were with my sister. Claire was home. The weather was nice, just enough sun to disguise the storm. I told her we had company coming over. Friends, I said. She didn't ask who. She just fixed her hair and put out snacks, like it was a casual visit. By 3 p.m., they started arriving. First, Rachel, then Tyler, my lawyer, briefcase in hand. And finally, Dean. Yeah, Dean walked into our house like he'd been invited to brunch. Polite smile. Leather shoes. Confused, but trying not to show it. Claire froze when she saw him. Dean, she said, breath catching. He blinked. You didn't tell him? That's when it hit him. I had told him. He just didn't realize it until now. He looked at me. I smiled. Have a seat, Dean. We all did. 4 of us. No yelling. No fighting. Just tension so thick it could crack glass. I opened a folder and placed it on the table. Inside, printouts, photos, lab results, audio transcripts. Neatly organized. Claire, I began, this is everything. Your second identity. The financial transfers. The affair. The paternity tests. Your private sessions with Dean that became something else entirely. Dean flinched. Rachel raised an eyebrow. Claire just stared. This isn't an attack, I continued. This is an ending. But I want it done cleanly. No fighting. No courtroom drama. Just the truth. I turned to Dean. You're the father, Dean. Congratulations. He looked like he'd been punched through the chest. That's not. I didn't know. Neither did I said. But now we do. He swallowed hard. Rachel tossed him a copy of the lab results. Don't worry. The state board will have questions later. But for now, we'll keep this off the radar if you cooperate. Claire finally spoke. What do you want? I turned to her. Full custody of the kids. You can have visitation, supervised for the first 6 months. You leave the house. I'll buy you out. The baby's not mine, so you'll raise them without my involvement or my name on a certificate. And I want full transparency on any further legal agreements. Her voice cracked. You're destroying my life. No, I said calmly. I'm just finally stepping out of the one you built around me. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just deflated. Like someone let the air out of her entire identity. Dean stood slowly. I think I should go, he muttered. I didn't stop him. Rachel stayed behind a few minutes longer. We exchanged a nod. No words needed. When they both left, Claire sat motionless for almost 10 minutes. Then, why now? I shrugged. Because the performance is over. And I'm tired of playing the extra. The house felt too quiet. Even with the kids home. Even with the TV on, the laundry tumbling, the faint noise of life trying to resume, there was a silence that lived in the walls now. The kind that didn't beg to be broken. And honestly, I didn't mind it. Claire moved out a week after the showdown. No dramatic goodbye. Just a checklist and a moving truck. The nursery she started painting was still half green. I didn't touch it. Not yet. I told the kids the truth, the age-appropriate version. Mom and I are going to live in different homes. But you're safe. You're loved. Nothing about that changes. Jake asked if he could keep his video game console. Ava asked if we could get a dog. That night, I sat alone at the kitchen table. No folder. No plan. No pressure. Just a glass of water and the kind of stillness that used to scare me. It didn't anymore. Tyler filed the paperwork. No objections. Claire's attorney didn't fight the terms. The test results, the timeline, the therapist connection, it was enough to make most negotiations feel like mercy. She didn't show up in court. Didn't need to. Everything was already over before a judge ever signed the forms. Rachel and I still talk. Sometimes about logistics, custody arrangements, joint statements for the school, but sometimes about more. Not romantic, not yet, maybe not ever. But there's a comfort in shared wreckage. We laugh more now. The dry, how did we end up here, kind of laugh. The kind survivors earn. One night, she sent me a photo of Brandon. He's growing a beard and posting self-help quotes now. Apparently, he's writing a book. Healing the Inner Flame. I replied. Sounds flammable. We laughed for a full 5 minutes. Healing's weird like that. It doesn't show up with a big banner or some triumphant scene. It slips in quietly. A moment where you catch yourself smiling while pouring coffee. A car ride with no tension in your shoulders. Folding laundry and realizing you're not thinking about her anymore. Some days, I still catch echoes. A certain perfume in a store. A phrase she used to say. Sometimes I even dream about the version of her I used to know. The one I married. The one who maybe never really existed. But when I wake up, I don't feel empty. I feel clean. Like something heavy finally got up and left. I didn't burn anything down. I didn't get revenge. I just stepped aside and let the truth do the work. Turns out, that's enough.